What is going on, everybody? This is Jackson from JD Sports Zone, and today I have a very special interview with the voice of Chicago sports. You may know him as the PA announcer for the Bulls, the Bears, the Fire, and a State Farm legend, Mr. Tim Sinclair. Tim, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to do this. How's your summer going? And thank you once again.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Three and a half of those four things are accurate. The State Farm legend, I don't know. We'll see. Remains to be seen. But summer's been good. I've been really busy actually this summer. Usually I slow down a little bit in the off season, but this summer's been exceptionally busy. But that's never a bad thing when you work in this business.
I mean, I absolutely agree, and I love the content I saw from Fanatics Fest and in recent years the NBA All-Star Game. So, again, a big legend in the Chicago sports area. So, again, it's great to get you on, and I would love to start about my first question towards the beginning of your career before you got into the Bears and Bulls side of things. I did 4 years of college radio, and you started off at WBGL before transitioning into organizational sports. What first inspired you to be a PA announcer, and what was the biggest transition going from local media to big traditional media?
You know, the inspiration part of that question is difficult to answer because I thought I was going to be an architect. That was my plan. I went into college thinking architecture was my career path. I'd thought that since junior high. And I happened to need a part time job while I was in college and knew a guy from my parents' church who worked in radio. And I was like, I wonder if they need some help. And I didn't know what that looked like, but I asked him if he had any very part-time job openings, and he said, "Do you want to be on the air?" And that question sort of changed the trajectory of my life. In that, I said, "Sure, why not?" I wasn't sure what to expect here, but let's give it a try. And that is what began the career. I realized I enjoyed it. I realized I had some natural talent in speaking. I was terrible when I started, but I at least had the interest and the ability to learn and the desire to learn, and that kind of started me on that path. I didn't know sports was going to be a part of it at all. I'd enjoyed sports and didn't really start connecting the communications piece and the sports piece until more than a decade into my career. I thought it was just going to be probably music radio as a DJ or whatever. And that really started to turn when I got a few opportunities at the University of Illinois. So that's kind of how that began. Uh, the difference between sort of local media and a more organizational sports is pretty vast, and in a lot of ways, they're not comparable, with the exception of this is my this is my job to speak in a way that people hopefully enjoy listening to. And there's some lessons learned from radio about um, filling time and doing so in a way that's not full of ahs and ums and likes and a meandering path through wherever, going, this is where I'm starting, this is where I'm going, and I'm going to get there in a way that makes sense to people. That helps in public address, but the organizations are very different. Sports is a completely different calendar, completely different job description. There are just some things that overlap in terms of the skill set.
I mean, sometimes it's not about the destination, it's about the journey leading to where you're getting, especially in this industry. And it's great to hear you had connections earlier on in your career to lead you into an illustrious career that you have now in the Chicagoland area. This kind of leads to my next question because I've had a lot of interviews with a lot of different broadcasters ranging from NFL to Banana Ball. Is there a pregame routine that you like to go through before going into a different sporting event? Personally, for you, are you a superstitious PA announcer?
I'm not a superstitious announcer, and there are routines, I suppose, but not in the sense that I always have to have coffee an hour out and like all those kinds of things. I tend to pride myself on being able to show up to any event with a pen, and that's all I need. Uh, Now, whether that's wise or not, I don't know, but that's really my goal, is to be able to walk in and use the roster they have, the pronunciations they have, the script they have, whether it's digital or on paper, and be able to do the job. Now, I want time to look through those things. I want to be able to make sure I've read the script. Does it sound like me? Does everything make sense? Are there any typos or incorrect information? Uh, is the roster complete? Is it correct? Do I have pronunciations? But to me, all of that takes place in the couple of hours leading up to a game. So for Bulls, as an example, I get there about 3 hours early. We have a rehearsal. It's typically an hour to an hour and a half long to go through all the breaks. So that gives me a chance to literally look through every single break, read it out loud in the arena, make sure the timing's correct. And then the roster part of it, at a certain level, it's easier. Like my job as an NBA or NFL PA guy is way easier than those who do it in high school because they're not given much. The rosters are constantly changing. They're rarely correct. Incoming high schools don't provide you much. You got to go ask parents in the stands how to say their own kids' names. I thankfully get a lot of that information provided to me from the franchises themselves. So I kind of know what I'm walking into. And certainly my team, the Bulls or the Bears or the Fire, I know how to say all those guys' names. And a lot of the others are famous enough that I know them too. So I do double check, make sure everything's correct, that I haven't misinterpreted something. But those are the two things that I have to do before every game. Read through the script, make sure I have a roster and pronunciations. And after that, I'm just reacting to the game. So I don't have a lot of like a play-by-play guy would have. You have to know stats and stories and things to sort of set the stage to make the event interesting. I'm literally just reacting to what I see, and I've got very brief moments when I hop in and try to say those things. So my job's a little easier in that respect, and that means the routine is a little more lax, I'm sure, than some.
That kind of answers my next question ask actually, because I was going to ask you, is there a difference in reaction and the energy you put into a sporting event depending on the sport, given the vast avenues that you have when it comes to Bears and Bulls and Fire?
I wouldn't say there's a difference in energy. On occasion, there's a difference in style. My job, I always try to say it as it is to reflect what a crowd is or should be feeling in a given moment. And so sometimes I'm following the crowd. Like Bears season last year, like I was just going with them. Like my energy was trying to reach because every game was so exciting and the crowd didn't need my help at all. I just sort of followed them. But there are some games, a basketball game, you're down 30 or you're getting waxed in the second quarter by somebody. That does change a little bit the energy you're putting into it because I want to be authentic and I want to be real in what I do and not a paid cheerleader who's just going to sound excited and turned up to 11 regardless of what's happening on the court or on the field. So in that respect, it does change. But I think my energy and my focus, I try to bring the same amount to every sport and give it everything I have. Most of these events are pretty special to the people who are going to them. Even if they're season ticket holders, there just aren't that many games. But a lot of people are going there for their one time per year, or maybe their one time in their childhood. And so for me to phone in a game just because I don't have the energy that day is not fair to the people who've shown up to try to enjoy it. And I'm not pretending that I'm why people show up. That's not the case at all. But when it comes to helping them enjoy the event, I'm part of that. And so I want to make sure they get the full experience.
Adaptation is key, especially when it comes to public address announcing. So I think you do that very well. And again, I've seen all the content on your pages on the LinkedIn and especially adapting to every single room that you're in. And I know you spoke upon different sporting events that you've had the opportunity to cover. You've had the opportunity to cover Big Ten championships, the NBA 75th anniversary team, Premier Summer League. What is one that sticks out to you throughout your entire career that's most memorable to you?
I, it's hard to answer. I think you mentioned it. If I had to pick a number one, it would have been 2022 NBA All Star, the 75th anniversary celebration, where the NBA recognized the top 75 players of all time. Most of them, if they were alive, were there. So I think between 50 and 60 were all in the building at the same time. And it was an incredibly cool and incredibly special moment for the NBA, but certainly for me getting to voice that entire thing. And typically I'm in the arena, and sometimes they carry parts of what I say on television. Just depends on the event. For that specific halftime, which was 25 or 30 minutes long, TNT carried the entire thing, and so it was my voice narrating that, not only for the people who were in the stands, but for the nation and the world who was watching. So that made it extra cool to be a part of that, and maybe there will be an event that has that much historic significance in my career still to come, and I hope there is. But at the moment, I that rises to the top for sure.
Maybe we'll see the NFL 125, 150 hosted by Tim Sinclair. I think
Maybe.
that would be absolutely historical, and that sounds like an amazing event to be a part of. And that actually leads to my next question because we see all these rumors about the Bears moving out of Chicago, going to Hammond, Indiana. What are your genuine thoughts on that?
Well, my paycheck has a bear in the corner, so I've got to somewhat be careful what I say and how I say it. But from my perspective, tell me where the microphone is. Like,
Mhm.
I don't get whether it's Soldier Field or Arlington Heights or Indiana or wherever. Just tell me where my chair is and where the microphone is, and I'll be ready to go. Um, you know, everybody has their own opinion on what they think the Bears should do, what they think the city of Chicago should do to make it make sense, or Arlington Heights or wherever. I understand the position of the Bears and certainly wanting to make the best decision for themselves financially and then also for their fans. And so I know everybody is working really hard to do that. And I guess my hope in the end is that everybody understands everybody else's position in the end. And the Bears are bigger than their location in terms of where they play. They're bigger than all of that. So ultimately, when a decision is made, I think everybody will be fine with it, or enough will be fine with it that it doesn't really matter. And as long as I have a chair to sit in and a microphone to use, I'm good.
Now, as a Chicago sports guy, so many illustrious players have stepped on Soldier Field. Walter Payton, Jimbo Covert, Steve McMichael. Do you have a Mount Rushmore of Chicago sports athletes? It can be from Bears, Bulls,
Oh,
Cubs, White Sox, whatever.
I mean, I think you have to start with Michael Jordan and then probably have to do Walter Payton. Beyond that, if I'm trying to spread the love a little bit, I would probably say Ernie Banks. And then, yikes. I don't know. There's so many other choices after that. I think I know Mount Rushmore is supposed to be four. Those are three easy ones. I like current Mount Rushmore is super fun because you've got Caleb Williams, Connor Bedard. Um, you could put Modest Buzelis up there potentially for the again for current Pete Crow Armstrong. Like those four are super fun current guys who would be on the Mount Rushmore for right now. But long term, Jordan, Payton, Ernie Banks, and then there's any number of people you could add for that fourth spot. But I'll give you those three anyway.
I think that's a great core three, and I was going to wait till the end of the interview to say this, but personally, I'm a St. Louis Cardinals fan, so I got a little beef with the Cubs.
Sure.
Haven't been great in about 5, 10 years, so I mean, I'll give the Cubs their flowers and everything related to
I'm
that.
not really a baseball guy anyway. Like I follow it a little bit, but I don't work it, so I pay far more attention to the other sports. So you're all good.
Now, I do want to ask you the big question because we talked about NBA 75th anniversary, the event you got to cover and be a part of. I want to talk about an off-grid event, and I mentioned it, State Farm Legend. How did the State Farm commercial come to be, and what was it like being a part of something like that?
I it was incredible actually. I enjoy far more than being in the commercial and it airing. I enjoy the behind the scenes stuff and seeing how it all goes together and being a part of that. That I really enjoyed. Uh, from what I understand, they had a couple of ideas of what they wanted to do for that particular commercial. One of them didn't pan out, and so Saturday morning before the commercial shot on Tuesday in Los Angeles, I get an email out of the blue. I'd heard nothing of it until that point, saying, "Hey, can you fly to LA on Monday to shoot a commercial on Tuesday?" And I was, of course, like, sure. Let me try to figure out a few things, and made it happen to get out there and record it. Um, it was a ton of fun. I loved like I mentioned, the behind the scenes stuff, but seeing how the directors work, and it was very much a Hollywood set. I got to obviously hang out with Jake and Benny the Bull and a few other people, and but what I didn't know at the time, I saw a very short script of which I had a lot of the lines, and the director was going over things with me when I got there to set on Tuesday morning, and he was like, "This happens, then you say this, then this happens, and you do this, and then you sing the jingle." And I went, "I do what?" He said, "And then you sing the jingle." Now, keep in mind, this is before any of those singing jingle commercials were out. The Jimmy Fallon one wasn't out. The Ludacris one wasn't out. They hadn't launched the campaign yet. So nobody had done this. And I was clearly not prepared for it. And I said, you've never heard me sing. And the director said, "It's supposed to sound awkward." And I was like, "Well, that will not be a problem. It will definitely sound awkward." So we did the whole thing, and just a few months later, the Jimmy Fallon one came out, and then the Ludacris one came out, and then mine was next, I believe. And they did maybe 10 or 11 of those where a celebrity sings the jingle. Uh, in that list of however many it was, not only was I last in terms of the most popular people on the list, but I was a very distant last. Uh, but it was an honor that they asked me to come do it. And whether it happens again or not, I don't know, but I certainly enjoyed it when it did.
I mean, I've always dreamed of being a part of those commercials. And speaking of Mount Rushmores, I had Benny the Bull on my mascot Mount
Oh, yeah.
Rushmore. So, yeah, I mean, that sounds absolutely awesome. Personally, I can't sing either, so can correlate on that level. But you spoke about like behind the scenes things with commercials like that. What's one behind the scenes fact about PA announcing that people don't realize so much goes into before a game?
I don't know if it's as much behind the scenes, but it is an unseen part of the process where people think, well, you just got to talk and say the names right. Okay, yes, that's part of it. But I do think there's part of the job that people don't necessarily understand unless it's being done poorly and then you notice it. And it's the idea of saying the right thing at the right time in the right way every single time. And we mentioned the paid cheerleader part earlier, not sounding like a robot, not sounding like a hype man, not sounding like you're just always going to be turned up to 11, but doing everything in a way that makes sense and that is authentic to me, that is authentic to the situation, that resonates with as much of the crowd as possible. And that's a process, in at least in my head, all the time, of what makes sense here. It's the read the room idea, and knowing what the situation is, knowing what the crowd is feeling, and trying to go, okay, what do I say here? I've just got a couple of words. How do I do that in a way that makes the most sense? And I only have my voice. I don't have my face or hand motions or posture or anything else to tell the story. I literally just have the words coming out of my mouth and the way I say them. How do I do that? And I think that's a part that most people don't think about. They'll go, "Ooh, I like this guy," or "I like this girl," or "Ugh, that that's not right." They don't necessarily think about why, and I think that's a big part of the why. And hopefully, it's something that comes across in what I do, because it is something I put a lot of thought into.
Yeah. I think that's great advice, especially for anybody trying to break out into this industry, whether it's a PA announcer, a radio host, a straight up broadcaster. But I think you do it very well. Again, love the content and everything that you put out there. And that's something that definitely gets swept under the rug. And that leads to my second to last question. What's the best piece of advice you would give to somebody, as somebody who just graduated college in May, trying to break into the sports industry? When it comes to being a PA announcer or just adaptability or anything to break out and get your foot in the door.
I say this a lot, and it's not just for broadcasters, but it certainly works in our industry. And it's availability, ability, humility, and ability. Just be good at what you do, and work hard to get better. You're not going to get many opportunities unless you're decent at what you do and clearly hungry to keep improving. Availability, when you have opportunities to get behind a microphone or get on a stage, take them. It's going to require sacrifice. You're going to have to give up time, energy, money, whatever. But when someone calls you, especially early in your career, move heaven and earth to say yes, because that's more experience. It's going to help you get better. It's going to help the ability piece, but also you're going to meet people who are in the industry who are looking to hire people like you again, or who might move to some other bigger job and need someone to come with them. Maybe that person's you. So that's the availability piece. And humility, just don't be a jerk. Be easy to work with. When you show up, be adaptable, be ready to go, and be flexible, be um, kind. Don't be difficult, because there are people in this industry, a lot of divas in this industry, where they walk in the door and they might be good at what they do, but people roll their eyes when they show up. And you don't want to be that person, because you got to be real good to overcome not being real nice and real easy to work with. So those three pieces will get you a lot of opportunities, and taking advantage of those opportunities then is up to you. But ability, availability, humility is a good start.
And I think that's something that everybody needs to take into account, whether, the occupation, whether it's in the media industry, whether it's going to be a doctor, dentist, anything related to that. And I have a lot of friends still in college radio at my university that want to be PA announcers. And I think that's a great three core main values: availability, ability, and humility to put into their day-to-day work and, try to improve and get given the opportunity, take it and run with it. And speaking of opportunities, Mr. Sinclair, final question for you. We talk about bucket lists. You talked about all the events and the players you've gotten to announce. Is there one sporting event or one player that you want to announce that's on your bucket list that you would love to close out your career with?
Well, I hope it doesn't close out my career, but continue my career. I used to always say, in terms of events, it was Olympics, World Cup, Super Bowl. I did the World Cup in June, so I got a chance to check that one off the list. So I guess I would say Olympics and Super Bowl are still on it. I also would like to have introduced the GOAT in every sport in some way, shape, or form. And so I've got Jordan, Messi, and Brady already. And so I guess I got to get Gretzky. I know there's a couple players now who might eclipse him, but in my brain, Gretzky would be Mount Rushmore. And then Otani, I guess, or go to wherever Babe Ruth's buried and stand there and do an announcement of him. But I would like to kind of check off all of those. So I've got three, but if I could get a couple more and sort of hit the goats in every major sport, that'd be a lot of fun.
I'm very glad you agree with me on the basketball GOAT debate. Personally, I think Michael Jordan is also the GOAT. I'm not one of the younger guys who believes LeBron James has eclipsed him yet. But Mr.
I've got
Sinclair,
him too. So even if it was him, I got him checked off. But yeah, I get it. I appreciate that.
I mean, well, maybe with the trajectory that Ben Johnson's taking the Chicago Bears team, we might see Tim Sinclair at the Super Bowl in some upcoming years. But Mr. Sinclair, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to do this interview. And anything you want to shout out or anything people should go check you out before we wrap up this interview?
Yeah, Tim, the letter J, Sinclair is my handle on most everything. So TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it now. Uh, be happy to have some extra followers and some more interaction, and hope you enjoy what you find there.